As he spoke, Basil slung his rucksack over his shoulder. I reached for mine, and did not forget my little black bag. Running swiftly ahead in the moonlight, we saw the adorable Snowmouse. We took up the chase. The Feversham had not exaggerated. He was huge. Even Basil, taller than most mice, seemed small by comparison with this shaggy giant. Suddenly he disappeared. We continued running, and the mystery was soon made clear. He had fallen down a deep crevice. Cries of pain came to our ears. We anchored on one end of our rope ladder in the hard snow and carefully descended. The poor creature had broken his wrist, which I set and splintered, and we helped him up the ladder. He looked at us shyly out of his large brown eyes and jabbered in some strange jargon. Basil, an accomplished linguist, understood some of it, and made signs and gestures so that the two were soon communicating. He is grateful that we rescued him, Basil told me, and will take us to his cave. He is friendly with the termites and visits them frequently, through a tunnel leading from his cave to the lost colony. We had better not fetch the others. This creature is too easily frightened and may run away. A full moon made the night as bright as day, and we followed the Snowmouse, and our climb brought us to his cave. High on the west face of Emmentaler, we had to stoop to enter, but stood erect easily in the cave proper. It was a large square room whose walls were covered with crude drawings of cave mice. Basil went over every inch of the wall with his magnifying lens. He flung himself down full length to peer at a drawing near the floor, and his eyes glittered. Bring another candle, Dawson, as I deduced the tail mice and snow mice of long ago were friendly. For proof, here is a drawing signed by Basil himself. The signature is unmistakable, and there are carved objects in this cave such no snow mouse ever made. I'll ask him to take us to the lost colony at once. The Snow Mouse agreed. Holding our candles high, we followed him down a narrow, winding tunnel. For a long time, Basil and I were tingling with excitement. Then the walls of the tunnel were streaked with moonlight, and my heart sank within me. At long last we had reached the end of our search, but I had rejoiced too soon. A rumbling noise came from within the mountain, and an enormous boulder tumbled down in front of us. The tunnel was blocked. So near yet so far, said Basil. If we can turn it slightly, we may squeeze through. We failed. The stone was far too heavy, and the Snow Mouse could not use his great strength because of his broken wrist. Basil remarked, really, I fear I am guilty of a misstatement. In London, I said I'd leave no stone unturned to find the lost colony. I said it again in Düsseldorf. Yet here in one stone I must leave unturned. We went back to the cave. Our guide wept, for he thought he would never see his friends again. Basil suggested to him that we might reach the lost colony from the top of the mountain. The Snow Mouse became terrified and jabbered away at some length. Basil translated. He says there are evil spirits on the summit, that no one has ever dared to go there, and that no one ever should. But you and I will go, Dawson, without the Snow Mouse. We did not let an old superstition swerve us from our goal. We slept in the cave that night. In the morning, Basil gave the snow mouse a note to take back to our camp. In it, he instructed Hillary and the others to bring along a temple to be used as a lever for moving the stone. The shaggy mouse, assured by Basil that all of us were friendly, left on his errand. And then began the most momentous climb we had ever undertaken, the ascent to the summit. Our progress in the face of a stiff wind was maddeningly slow. We plowed on, speaking little, for we knew we had to conserve our strength. Immentular and the icy blast of that threatened to make us lose our footing seemed to be mocking us, challenging us to go on. Still another ice fall loomed before us. Basil cut steps in it with his axe, but tired quickly in the high thin air. He signaled and I took over. It was exhausting work, and it was soon Basil's turn again. But no sooner had he cut a dozen steps than he cried, "Voila! There's no more up. The mountain is ours." Words cannot tell the joy of that historic moment. We had made every single mouse dream come true. We had conquered Mount Amantala. We hoisted a small British flag and also a Swiss flag given us by the mayor of Kassadov. Then in the quaint mouse ceremony known as the mouse grave ritual, we intertwined our tails and bowed to the 4 points of the compass. I bowed to the east while Basil bowed to the west. I bowed to the north while Basil bowed to the south. And then he said one word, "Observe." I turned around to see what was to be seen. There, about 1,000 feet below, lay a valley, snugly nestled between two jutting cliffs. Eagerly we whipped out our binoculars, saw an ruin of a castle, once built by humans. It had no roof, but the walls were still standing. Within those walls we could see tiny huts, ranged around a tiny village square, and signs of movement from the tiny beings who lived there. Basil's voice was calm. "Shall we pay them a call?" "Immediately, if not sooner," I replied. Never did 2 miles make a happier descent, for the lost colony was no longer lost. Basil of Baker Street had found it.